Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tara Dawood Sahibat, a very warm thank you to you for the invitation today to be here with you and to everybody who's in the audience. I would like to share 4 points with you today, but before I do that and listening to Tara Sahiba's speech, let me share something at a personal level before I get into what I was going to say. And that has to do with the role of women in running the economy as well as running the global economy. So before this job at the State Bank, I used to work for an organization called the IMF. Some of you may know the IMF used to then be headed and still continues to be headed by a woman. My boss then was a woman called Christine Lagarde. And while I was at the IMF, one of the biggest challenges that the global economy faced was the global financial crisis, starting in 2007 and 2008. And some of you might remember that that global financial crisis started with the collapse of one bank called Lehman Brothers. Well, Christine Lagarde often used to say that if it was not Lehman Brothers but Lehman Sisters, we might never have had the global financial crisis. So it is an honor to be here with you today, and let me salute the work of the Ladies Fund and the work of the Dowd Global Foundation. And let me really commend all the women who have helped to put this together, and also let me congratulate in advance all the women who will be recognized today. The 4 points that I want to make today to you are very straightforward. I want to first just tell you a little bit about, and this will be obvious, but about some of the benefits of gender equality. Second, though, I want to talk about an area under the State Bank's domain, which is how do women fare in financial inclusion. And I want to share with you what are the statistics in Pakistan and how they compare with women in other countries. The main point from that will be that we have a lot to do. So third, I want to talk about why is it that women's financial inclusion in Pakistan is so low. And finally, I want to share with you very briefly some of the work that the State Bank is doing in this regard, and where we would really like to partner with others to help promote this very good cause. So first and foremost, about the benefits of gender equality, one does not need to speak too much on this, because I think by this point it should be fairly obvious that promoting gender equality and allowing women to avail opportunities to the same extent that men do will enhance economic productivity and improve development outcomes for all. I'll quote a study that the IMF did. IMF is usually associated with a whole host of other factors, but I think its work on gender is perhaps less recognized. But according to recent research that was done at the IMF on gender issues, they did a study that estimates that removal of barriers to female labor force participation could lead to welfare gains exceeding 20% in India, Pakistan, and other countries in the Middle East and North Africa. And their study found that male and female labor force participation are in fact complementary, and that narrowing the gender gap benefits both men and women. And I wanted to point that out in particular because in many countries, men may fear that greater women participation may in fact undermine their chances, but the evidence is to the contrary. So then let me talk a little bit about what is the state of financial inclusion in Pakistan when we compare this to the rest of the world. And what we see is that there are quite pronounced gender imbalances. According to the Global Findex database of 2017, which is compiled by the World Bank, 72% of men worldwide have an account, whereas 65% of women have one too. So at a global level, there is already some disparity. But this gap becomes quite striking when we look at Pakistan, where 35% of adult males have an account. And according to this source from the World Bank, only 7% of adult women in Pakistan have a bank account. Now, this number might be slightly understated based upon some additional data that the State Bank has, but even when we use that data, this number goes up to around 25% or so. But even then, this is a very, very low statistic and shows the long way that we have to go. And to put this number in context, the same Global Findex database, the average for South Asian countries is 64% for women.